Brendan, Bruce and Nola.
Mm-hmm. This way.
And then we'll have everybody. Brendan, yep, Brendan, Bruce and Nola.
I'll bring them back, yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Nearly got everybody. Bruce. And
Yes,
Nola.
you can do it. You're getting good. Nola. Okay, then we're all set.
Okay. So I'm only seeing you and Lee Gert on the screen. Is that right? I know that's better. Nola. And we just need Bruce and Brendan.
You just need to activate his camera.
Okay.
There we are.
Oh, okay. This is looking good. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Okay, so thank you for bearing with us getting the technology sorted, everyone. And welcome to this session, which focuses on traditional owners of the Murray-Darling Basin. So I'd just like to start by acknowledging that I'm talking to you from Ngunnawal country. We had the Welcome to Country by Worley Bell yesterday, but just wanted to acknowledge that that's where I'm tuning in to you and to all of the First Nation people in the presentation group today. Would like to acknowledge your country and your community. And I'm really looking forward to having a really good conversation around water and water issues and what it means in terms of your relationship in cultural context to water and the issues that are sort of impacting on the water health of, in particular, the Murray-Darling Basin. So we have with us today 4 fantastic speakers. So we have Brendan Kennedy, who's a Tati Tati Wati Wati traditional owner, and he comes from Robin River area near the border of South Australia. Is that correct, Brendan?
Robin Vale on the Murray River.
Robin Vale. So, yeah, so he's sort of, and we're going to go upstream with this conversation. So the next person who I'll introduce is Lee Joachim. And Lee is a Yorta Yorta researcher, and he is based in Shepparton, which is in Victoria. Can people turn their mics off, please? And next person is Nola Turner-Jensen, who's a Wiradjuri woman from the Galleroy River Clan. Is that correct, that pronunciation?
Wow.
Okay, terrible. Okay, I'm sorry. Lachlan River. Okay, and then we also have Bruce Shillingsworth, who is a Murrawarri and Wiradjuri man, and he's also a water warrior and a climate activist. So he's very much an activist in the space, as is Brendan. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. And I'd like to start with a video that Brendan shared just to get us going. So what we'll do is everyone's going to give a bit of a presentation about their country and their relationship to water, and then we'll open out to a more of a discussion, and then everybody can jump in and ask questions. So while we're talking in the panel, if people have questions, please post them in the chat, and then we can make sure that the speakers can respond to the questions. So I'll start now with this really beautiful video, which is a great context for us to set the issues around the Murray-Darling Basin. Now, without getting too much into it, for people outside of Australia, Murray-Darling Basin is about a third of the geographical area of Australia. It's a massive area. It's called the food bowl of Australia, and to First Nation people, it's their lifeblood. If we think about the same context in Europe, the water is divided through the borders of the states, and there's laws that basically cover the resourcing of that water, who can take what. So it's traded, and it's really a challenge because there's not enough water that's flowing down, and the water health is not good. And so it's a really serious issue for everybody in Australia, because it is basically, once it's gone, the water's gone, that's it. And for the people speaking tonight, their connection comes through their culture, which is, thousands and thousands of years. So they have a very specific story to tell. And so without any more, I will play the video.
I'm singing, come close to the fire now, to the smoke. This is our medicine, it's good for us, make us feel good and healthy, and clean us, make us well. Dalgi nyaga nyindi yiri pa martelki nyaka nyura kili nyawi kima tangrata tati yawe gelegema pan mara dalgi yena gawa gem nyewi wana bara nyaga jibrini pan mara dalgi bore nyino kungara yenan dalegara baram kungara wanawi yawe gelegema pan mara dalgi. I'm singing, come close to the fire now, to the smoke. This is our medicine, it's good for us, make us feel good and healthy, and clean us, make us well. Dalgi nyaga nyindi yiri pa martelki nyaka nyura kili nyawi kima tangrata tari kuli nyura kili kima nyiti dalgi tangura karinata, my country, my river, my place, good country. Tati Tati, Murrawarri. This is Tati Tati country here, Magoya Lagoon, near Robinvale on the Murray River, and this place is Toltolil in Wiradjuri. Tati Tati is Tol, meaning the lagoon, and also known as Magoya Lagoon. It's an ancestral creation site. It's a being, and it's the ancient Murray River watercourse. This is the original Murray River flow through here. That's why you got the cliffs. So yeah, this is an ancestral creation site. It's a part of Bunyul and Milu, creation of the Murray River by the giant cod. You know, for us this is a very spiritual place. It's a place of, when we talk about giving us, inspiring us to fight for country, fight for our water, Magoya and it's a place of inspiration for us and our elders and our children. So it's a very special place, and when it's full of water, it's just a beautiful place. Murray River people, our river country people, we rely on the water from the rivers, and that water from the river that flows out into the creeks and the lakes and the lagoons and the wetlands. So we rely on that water, and when there's no water there, that has a damaging effect on us, has a physical, it has a spiritual, it destroys our cultural economy, but it also destroys our country. And when you destroy our country, deprive our country of its water, its natural water. Also known as Murrawarri. Murrawarri Lagoon, it's an ancestral creation site. It's a being, and it's the ancient Murray River watercourse. This is the original Murray River flow through here.
Fred, I don't know what's happening with the video. It keeps wanting to start back at the beginning. Should maybe I try and open it up in Vimeo and share screen? Sorry, guys. This is tech fail.
Hello. Yes, there is an issue with Vimeo. I believe that the best solution is to share the Vimeo URL, and each one of us can watch the video on Vimeo. Perhaps it can be a solution. A better solution. I don't know why it's so slow.
I'll put it there, but we can also, I could share my screen.
Yeah, you can try it also.
Okay. We're probably, what, about...
Wiradjuri. This is Tati Tati country here, Murrawarri Lagoon, near Robinvale on the Murray River. And this place is Tol Lil in Wiradjuri. Tati Tati is Tol, meaning the lagoon. And also known as Murrawarri. Murrawarri Lagoon, it's an ancestral creation site. It's a being, and it's the ancient Murray River watercourse. This is the original Murray River flow through here, and that's why you got the cliffs. So yeah, this is the ancestral creation site. It's a part of Bunyul and Milu, creation of the Murray River by the giant cod. You know, for us, this is a very spiritual place. It's a place of, when we talk about giving us, inspiring us to fight for country, fight for our water, Murrawarri is and it's a place of inspiration for us and our elders and our children. So it's a very special place. And when it's full of water, it's just a beautiful place. Murray River people, our river country people, we rely on the water from the rivers, and that water from the river that flows out into the creeks and the lakes and the lagoons and the wetlands. So we rely on that water. When there's no water there, that has a damaging effect on us, has a physical, it has a spiritual, it destroys our cultural economy, but it also destroys our country. And when you destroy our country, deprive our country of its water, its natural water, then that has a devastating effect on our culture. Because we are water, we're water people, and our culture is water-based. It's been managed and it's been diverted, manipulated, restricted, prevented from, moving naturally because of the lock and the weir and the regulators. And so it's like the veins in your body, If you go and block, a vein, if you prevent the blood from flowing to a part of your body, you're going to kill that body part. It's the same with country. And that's what they're basically doing, killing off the lungs and the organs of country by stopping water and holding it in the river for the purpose of the irrigators and the farmers to mass pump billions of litres of water out of the river to water their farms. Now, we do need farms and we do need food, but we need a balance too. We need to work in accordance with the natural environment and the availability of water.
The state of the river floodplain that we're standing on now is really a product of historic and contemporary regulation of these waterways, of the Murray-Darling Basin in particular. That regulation and that management of water has been highly problematic for decades. Partly the reason we have a basin plan was in recognition of the over-extraction and the crisis facing these rivers and this floodplain. So unfortunately, while we've made some small steps forward, we've actually also got enormous progress yet to make, and we're really facing a major uphill battle in order to restore health to these floodplains.
Cultural flows, it comes from the Chuka Declaration, but it really comes from the spirit and heart of our nations and our country and our waterways. And for us, cultural flows is water, cultural water, spiritual water. It's water for our people, it's water for our country, but it's also water for water. Because the water needs its cultural flow itself. That water needs to flow across country.
Cultural flows is a concept that traditional owners have been developing for a number of years, especially in the southern Murray-Darling Basin, as essentially a tool to identify means of establishing far greater Aboriginal control and authority over water management, especially along the Murray River floodplain here, such as sites like this at Marguya Lagoon. This particular project we're working on with Tati Tati is an endeavour to apply that concept to a particular place, to a particular country that is here at Marguya Lagoon. Out of that, what we're hoping is that we can then take this kind of case study and this kind of example as a model of how to progress the idea of cultural flows in practice elsewhere on other country, and other traditional owners might take up that opportunity too.
So, our culture is dictated and informed by and inspired by our waters. You take that water away, you're taking away our culture, taking away our future, and you're taking away our children's abilities and opportunity to learn about themselves and about their culture and about their country. Yeah, my daughter Mel, my oldest daughter, I'm very proud of her. She's very special, very strong, and she's already has a strong connection to this place. She's leading the way to get Marguya healthy again and make this wetland and this lagoon well again. And she knows that for our own spirit and our own health and well-being, it's important for her to continue to work and fight to get Marguya recognised and for Tati Tati to get recognised.
So Marguya Lagoon here is very representative of the Murray River floodplain more generally. There's wetlands along it, billabongs. This country would, prior to regulation of the river, have flooded annually or at least biannually. So while at this time of the year, in autumn, it would be relatively dry, it wouldn't look like this. It would be, it would dry out and then it would be flooded and it would become an abundant wetland every year. So if we're going to do cultural flows at a site at Marguya Lagoon, a site like this, really what we need to do is bring water over the floodplain into the lagoon here behind me in a manner that mimics how naturally the floodplain floods.
When the water fills right up, fills that part of the lagoon up, and it gets too full and then it overflows. And that's where the fish, ancestors catch all the fish here. But there's cooking ovens in the ground everywhere here. That's what this whole area is. It's a cooking site, camping site. Ancestors. We come here today, we come here and camp here, and when there's water here, we come here, and we come here and observe, and we come here and look at country and learn from country, and we can feel our ancestors' presence here. Now, we've been here for 2,000 generations. Been here for over 100,000 years, since the beginning creation time of this waterway. The foreigners have only been here for nearly 230 years. 230 years cannot erase our sovereignty for this country. It's ours, it's our inheritance, it's our belonging, it's what we belong to, and it belongs to us. It's for us to care and maintain, to pass on to our children and our future generations.
So government has funded the whole Cultural Flows research project, which has been a really important investment in ideas and thinking. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we need government to go a step further and to provide the resources and the assistance to actually build cultural flow outcomes here on country. And that means access to water. It means traditional owner access and authority over land and over the landscape. And ultimately, the objective of that entire exercise is to restore the health of country. And that's not only about restoring the health of country, but restoring justice to Aboriginal people too. If we can develop a cultural flows program and model that applies to a site like this, like Marguya Lagoon, then there's an enormous opportunity for governments to step up and achieve real gains for Aboriginal people and their control and authority over water and on country. And one of the major important things of that is to reverse the aquanullius that Aboriginal communities are facing, that is basically being shut out of the control and having any meaningful authority over water management, especially in the Murray-Darling Basin.
We need water that is our water. It's owned by our people. It's delivered by our people. It's managed. Now, we have to prepare that water, prepare country for water, and we have to prepare water for country so that, that water is healthy, it's been purified, has all that it needs in that water to be able to look after country, and then country will respond to that water. They need to recognise and afford proper respect to our people, and they need to relinquish those water back to country, back to us. Let water be on country so as everything can be well again.
So, Brendan, would you like to take it from there? I think it's an amazing video. A great way to introduce this subject, I think.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, well, for our people, we're only scratching the surface, really. We've been locked out of water for so long, and the layers of colonisation that continues to lock our people out of the water, out of making decisions around water is very. I've been at it for a long time, Bruce has been at it, Lee's been at it for a long time, Nola. But I think we're starting to scratch through, that first layer. What we've been working on, Tati Tati, we've been working on their cultural flows, and we've got our areas. Tati Tati country is like anyone else's country. It's both sides of the Murray River in the New South Wales and Victoria. So Yeah, we had to pick one very special place to really focus on, Magoya Lagoon, and so yeah, we really focus on Magoya to try and get a cultural flows, over the line there, and then hopefully that'll translate out to. Hopefully it'll open the floodgates. So I'm just going to present on sort of the work we've been doing to date, our Tati Tati group around around cultural flows. I'll just click on here to share. Oh, it's actually got stop sharing. Can you actually see? Oh, I'll go back in there. Share screen. Okay. So yeah, hopefully everyone can see the presentation from Tati Tati Kajin mean water, and so it's we've been working for the last couple of years now on Cultural Flows program as part of the National Cultural Flows program, and more specifically as part of the Southern Basin nations, Mildred, Murray Lower Darling Rivers Indigenous Nations. So Barinya Kajin Kariwara, healthy water flowing, and we're Tati Tati country. We're like I said, we're both sides of all our Murray River nations. We're all both sides of the river, both on the New South Wales side and the Victorian side, and the river itself. As I said, we're river people, and we know that healthy water for us means healthy country, healthy people, healthy water. We need healthy water. I hear about, and Lee, and also you'd know this as well from his elders, but my elders talk about seeing the river clear back in their times. Well, I've never seen my rivers clear ever, and that's a sad thing. My kids and grandkids, they haven't seen clear river, clear waters in our country. So that's a dream of mine, always reach high. But we've got our organisation, Tati Tati Kajin, our traditional own little org we set up, and so our aim is to progress our water rights. Reinstate or continue to assert and reinstate our sovereign right to water. We've never ceded our rights ever, so we're asserting it, and we're campaigning hard for our people to be the decision makers, regarding water in our country. Also restores, maintains our connection and our health and country, and reviving and maintaining our culture and our spirit. So that's part of our journey. And Magoya Lagoon, our ancestors were still recorded there, 1880s. There wasn't any paper. Our ancestors never signed no paper to hand it over to anyone. So people say, "Oh, who owns the land?" And I say, "Well, we're the owners. We're the custodians. We're the traditional. We're the shepherds. We're the maintainers of country and culture. We've never ceded that right or authorised anyone else to care for our country on our behalf. Never ever, and we never ever will." So Magoya Lagoon is one of those places, many, many places in our country, but it's a place where we connect in the country and each other and ourselves. And we have grandmother trees there, birthing trees and grandmother trees, and our ring tree, boundary trees, and birthing trees and everything. Yeah, we have all our ancestral sites there. So we've been there for since the beginning. So Magoya, it supports our all of our country and all of our everything, our cultural landscape and our cultural economies. So the health of Magoya, it has a direct link and impact on the health of our people, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and culturally. And we see that in a lot of other places too, up in New South Wales, up along the Barker and that, you see and along the Murray, there's a direct link between the poor health of our river systems and direct link to our poor health of our people. So this lagoon, Magoya, they put a regulator in there, and that's the main threat. And I tried to stop and put them in that regulator in. It was 12 years ago. But yeah, it's a regulator. It stops natural flow, and it there, as you can see a little image of the lagoon there, and so the water that they deliver water through, it's actually through the mum part, in our language, mum, that's your backside. So they deliver the water backfill it through the mum, through the outlet. And we say, no, it's got to come through the mouth. So we try to explain them, they don't understand. And we said, well, look, I'll turn you upside down and give you a drink of water that way. See if you can digest water by coming in the other end. And that's when they understood what we're talking about. Silly way of putting it, but that's one of the only ways they could understand what we're saying. So yeah, we're trying to, why cultural flows, is to restore our natural flows through the landscape, through the natural inlets, to water to be come through the natural pathways into the lagoon, and then the water goes back out into the river. So yeah, and capturing our values, prioritising how we value the country and the water, capturing all the harmful and foreign ways that they're doing it, and of course our cultural use and occupancy restored. That's what we're trying to do. So yeah, we're part of the cultural flows methodologies to develop a cultural flows management plan, which we have now. We've completed. Now the first stage is to describe. We had to describe what our values are and what cultural objectives. So we did Aboriginal waterway assessment, and then we did a biocultural assessment, and of course highlighting the cultural character of our lagoon. So we did that, and then we completed a cultural flows management plan. So we've completed stage 1 and 2, and now stage 3 is implementing the cultural flow, the actual water on country. So yeah, that's the front cover there, the cultural flows management plan for Magoya Lagoon that we developed. And the values, we put our values in there, and watering requirements. I think, and I'd be handy for everyone to have a look, download the Echuca Declaration. It tells you about what, the definition of cultural flows. It's water that's owned by our people, and it's of a sufficient quality and quantity to meet our First Nations cultural, spiritual, environmental, and our economic, improve our conditions. So we identified the watering, how much water we need, and where it needs to come in, and how. So all those watering requirements for country, we work through that, and we come up with our plan. We've got our now, and we've got a longer term plan as well, 10, 15 years, and from now and into the future, and all the foundational needs, and the short-term outcomes and long-term outcomes and aspirations. So we've collected, we've gathered all that. We've got all that information from our mob. So, but along the way, the Catchment Management Authority, they went and secured a little bit of water and decided on a little watering hole that normally would connect into the Magoya, but there wasn't enough water that they delivered. It's only 15 megalitres of water. Had it been 50 megalitres of water, then it would have connected up into the lagoon, but there only wasn't enough water, and so it turned into black water. So we called it a test flow. And they thought, oh, this would be a good cultural flow. Well, we said, no, it's not a cultural flow. So we call it test flow. And so we developed a lot of our monitoring and evaluation tools and experience from their mistakes. So, and we developed our recommendations and next steps. And so, that's where we're at now. We have our cultural flows management plan. So now it's about, securing that water allocation. And it's not environmental water. You can't compare cultural water with environmental water. They're totally two different things. Environmental water that's owned by the government. They own that water and they deliver it the way they deliver it through their pumps and their pipelines and all that. And it's not healthy water. Cultural flows, it's us people, our people delivering our water. And it's to go through country the natural way, and that's where it gets all its nutrients and it gets purified, and then by the time it gets into the lagoon, it's healthy water, and then that makes it a healthy waterway for all of our aquatic life and all of animals. So the next stage now, where we're at now, DELP in Victoria, will continue to support us for the next 3 years, keep working on progressing our cultural flows. And determining the best ways to continue to develop our cultural flows management plan into the implementation stage. And continue, we'll continue to advocate for access for water, and not only for ourselves, but for all our mobs. We want to share what we've done with all our other First Nations, Fish Lana peoples everywhere. What we need water. We need our allocations and water ownership, and to be able to make those decisions. We need to be empowered, and we need to be the water managers. So, we're applying our values and our aspirations and the outcomes there for our people and for our country. And then that's the priority, that gets embedded into the, water management for Magoya. And, for cultural flows to be incorporated into the bigger picture right across the basin, for all First Nations to have their own water. And so it's what we want that genuine, meaningful, collaboration, agreement making, and so that we become, we manage the water on our country, and there's a lot of legal and policy changes that need to be made, and so hopefully cultural flows is to make that changes, so that it's for our people and legally and beneficially owned by our people and supports our outcomes, and then we can continue to draw on our traditional ecological knowledges and our cultural sciences, apply our cultural science methodologies to water, our cultural flows and water, and even have cultural flows as the water delivery way to deliver water in country, not environmental water, but cultural flows is the way, and it's led by us, the First Nations. So that's a little bit of a snapshot. I think I can go about stop sharing, or I can leave it on the screen. I'll just stop sharing now.
Thanks, Brendan. I think you make such an important point about the difference between environmental water and cultural flows. Because when I first heard the term environmental water, I was a bit gobsmacked. I was like, but isn't all water belong to the environment? But yeah, I'm just seeing in the chat, discussion around, the whole market-based focus of the Murray-Darling Basin, which, of course, is part of the huge problem. Is it's seen as a resource, not as a living entity. I might hand over, if you finish your presentation, I might now hand over to Lee. And Lee, I'd love to share some of the perspectives from where you are along the Murray-Darling Basin and the Yorta Yorta perspective on water in that context, please.
Yeah, so, my name's Lee Joachim. Yorta Yorta man living in Shepparton, which is on the Kiala River, which is the Goulburn River, the largest Victorian river that we have, and that flows into the Murray around Echuca. Most of my life has been around living on water and being raised by my grandmother. So it has been an important part of who we are, from her being raised on Camera to moving from Camera to living on the river in Marupana and more importantly becoming involved with Yorta Yorta Nation through that process of native title and the earlier days of, I suppose, being involved with the Murray Lower Darling Rivers Indigenous Nations and assisting in the process there. It has really been a uphill battle for our elders who have been involved in this whole process. Back in 1999, we had bureaucracy coming to talk to the elders, looking for advice on the removal of snags in the system, so trees that had fallen into the water. And to us as Yorta Yorta people, to Muddy people, to everyone along the river system, we understand that when that tree falls into the river system, it's providing shelter, it's providing food for whoever's within that water system. So fish, birds, whatever it might be, water spiders, water beetles. And when they came and they spoke to the elders advised them, leave the snags alone, don't remove them. And they ended up telling the elders, that you don't know what you're talking about, we're just going to remove them anyway. And so they removed them, and it was a multi-million-dollar project, removing the trees from, in 2000. Then by 2004, they saw depletion of fish, of bird species, of frogs, of insects in that system, because they had removed the snags, because they believed that by removing these trees that had fallen into the river system, it would provide the water to flow faster and it would be a cleaner system. Then in 2006, they invited the elders to an event called Re-Snagging the River System. And that was a $50 million project in putting the trees back into the river system. Now they asked the elders there in regards to where should we put them, and the elders told them. And anyway, they went and did it, and they put them in the wrong spot. And this, that's just one instance of what our elders have to go through. They've lived on the river system. Our history is with the river system, and yet bureaucracy and these scientists and these engineers will come along, ask for advice, get the advice, and then, turn it on its head and say, no, you don't know what you're talking about, until they do the damage to the ecosystem, until they do the damage to the water flow itself and how it flows from one end to the other. What we realise as Yorta Yorta people is what work we allow to happen on our country actually affects those that are below us, where the water will flow through. And it'll also affect those that are above us as well. So, we have a huge responsibility to this. And for years and years, we've been fighting there is a length of the river called the choke, which restricts how fast that water can flow through the Barmah-Millewa Forest or National Park. And for years, they've been talking about how we can open up the choke or how we can work our way around the choke. And we continually fight to, try and stop this. What they don't realise, as Brendan was talking before, we are the land and the land is we. And that choke, that water system represents our blood, sweat and our tears. This particular part of the river system called the choke, or the Barmah choke as they refer to it, is important because it's like a central nervous system. When you've got a good flow, it flows out over the banks. It fills up these two lakes that are attached to it. You've got Moira on the New South Wales side and you've got Barmah lakes on the Victorian side. Now, we refer to these lakes as our kidneys. As Brenda was referring to, we see this land as our body. So what that does is when that choke overflows, fills up the lakes, that lakes then go out further into the environment. And then there's this flushing effect once the water levels go down. So the water is rushing back into the lake and back into the river system and flowing on further on down. And it's that cleansing mechanism that we understand in relation to this and how that affects not only our landscape, but us as a people as well. And, the enjoyment of having floods on country and seeing that particular, I suppose, cultural flow for us actually happen. And it's the importance of understanding the environmental engineering of Yorta Yorta people and other people in relation to what middens do, because our landscape on Yorta Yorta country is just pure floodplain, just flat. And we understand that the development of the middens that we have over thousands and thousands of years, the burial sites, assist in flowing that water through our landscape from one wetland to another, and really providing us and our family groups that were existing on them the food and the resources for them. More in particular, the elders were really focused on what climate change would actually do for them, and the involvement and the research that we were involved with back in 2008 through to 2012, in really looking at how climate change will affect us as a people, but how it will affect us in living on country. What will that do to the water? And what will that do to the availability of the resources, whether it's medicinal plants, weaving plants, food attached to that we actually, our cultural economy, as Brendan was talking about before, we still harvest our system, and that's important to us, to the continuation of our culture and the importance of our connectivity for generations to come. So it's been a long gambit, but what we've really developed is, bringing back the research skills that we have as an Indigenous population, ensuring that we have the skills and the knowledge. What a scientist might measure in regards to the health of a system is, can be based on a tree, a fish and a bird. What we as in Yorta Yorta people have to consider is what happens to the water spider and the water beetle, which signify to us the health of the water and if that's drinkable water, the importance of aquatic grasses and the flow of the aquatic grasses in regards to their cleansing of the floods that come in. It's about the connectivity of our fish to our water rats and how that is all affected, and then the onflow onto the land on raising the trees, the red gums, the black box, the grey box, and that flow of water going out into our environment, ensuring that there are grasses that are there to do that, to do our jobs as well. So it's important to understand the full system and not measure it from a bureaucratic point of view on a healthy, we'll give this wetland a 5-star system based on, a bird, a fish and a tree, when there is so much more culturally important to us, all interconnected to that tree, all interconnected to that fish and all interconnected to that bird, that provides us sustenance and something else to look forward to. So our measures have to be quite broader in regards to, you give it a 5, mate, well, we're going to give it a 2 based on that you are neglecting this frog, based on that you are neglecting this species of water spider, based on the fact that you are neglecting the strength of this grass that we'll need to create nets, to create baskets, whatever you might need. And it goes to those depths of how you measure a system based on a science that is basically so far removed. It's broken down into systems of ecology, biology, and many other things when you have to look at holistically. How do we, as I suppose, ethno-ecologists who, we are a specific people born to a specific landscape, understanding how that ecosystem actually works. We are and we belong. And that's the importance that we have found, and the continued work that we do, not only here in Australia, but, you have to take the fight internationally to bring that back and to look at how you can create the opportunities to be involved further in strengthening that, regardless of whether you have, state agreements or Commonwealth agreements, but to look at what is self-determination through a process, as Brendan was talking about, these cultural flows or these environmental flows that are attached to the importance of you and your culture. I'm going to keep that short, Trace.
Sorry, my mic took a little while to turn on. Thank you, Lee. I think that was, a really good segue from what Brendan was saying, and I'm really glad that you brought up the point about Moira and Barmer Lakes, because having worked with you on Yorta Yorta country, that always stays with me, that analogy between the body and the river as a body. Really powerful stuff. So I just noticed that Nola has gone back into the participants group. Fred, can we pull her back? So I'm not challenged by the technology, not at all. And then we can hand to Nola. And I don't know if you guys are following the conversation that's happening in the chat, but it's really interesting. People are really responding to this.
For some reason, I can't see the chat.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Fred.
I just added Nola to the presenter. So Nola, you just have to activate your camera and you're good.
Okay. And can you see the chat now, Lee?
Yes, I've got it.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'll turn my camera off. And now we'll hand over to Nola.
Hello. I'm so sorry. I went to, I'm not sure where, but it wouldn't let me get back in. And then, of course, I had to call the expert in my house, which is my teenage son. So he came and saved me. And, of course, the first thing he said was, "What did you do?" Thinking it wasn't my fault this time. So, Nanka Wantu, Nadu Gambana Nimniga, hello, welcome. My name is Nola Turner-Jensen. I'm Wiradjuri. Wiradjuri is Central Western New South Wales. It's the second largest language group in Australia and takes in multiple major rivers and incredible lagoons and lakes and creeks across this beautiful country. I grew up near the Womble River, which is Macquarie River. I grew up out little place called Narromine, and we certainly can appreciate out there the power and the reliance on water. But as a Wiradjuri person, for the last 3 years, nearly 3 years, I've been running a toponymy project, which is about restoring our place names and also connecting our Wiradjuri place names with our language and looking at the patterns and of those connections to restore our parts of our identity that's been silent and waiting for us. And so we've spent the last few years looking at the maps, the really early colonial maps, hundreds and hundreds of them, that show the damage that's been done over such a long time. You know, a few hundred years, the damage they've been able to do. So, you know, things that you can see where they have ring barking, they mark it on these old maps, the dams, you know, just when you look at a map of New South Wales and you look at, there is a map that shows all the dams that have been enforced by colonial people, and it looks like New South Wales has the chicken pox. There's just thousands of them. They're everywhere, all through, and they're blocking and changing our watercourses and changing the flows. And this is, you know, something that I was shocked when I was first shown that map at how much damming has occurred. I think in the toponymy project for Wiradjuri, the connections between our law and identity to water is something that's just so pure and so deep. And sorry, I just put everything away trying to get back on. And so, you know, things like our durays are our mother's country that we inherit, and looking at the durays in Wiradjuri country and connecting them with the language, we find that our mother's country is also a section of water. And so everybody that inherits, we're a maternal law people. So everybody that inherits through their mother, Guni, that piece of country is always a piece of water. There's a selection of water, and your responsibility to that water is that so the flow downstream for those other people is strong and clear and good. So when you look at things like our skin, our two skin groups, when we're born, we're placed in one skin or the other. And in Wiradjuri, you're Mugula or you're Butherong. And, you know, Butherong is wetlands, reed people. Mugula is grasslands, you know, grain people. And so you're separated into that. And that connection, that identity, that's your first level of identity. And that is about the water. It's all connected to that water. So in restoring these place names, in restoring the clan groups, in restoring all those things which are so incredibly important for our identity, because we have many layers of identity depending on what's the question being asked of you, and you know, where you're at in your learning journey, your teaching journey, your knowledge gathering journey, and those water is such part of that. And it's not a resource and it's not a product. It's our guni, it's our mother, and it is a part of our family. And when you change our family or take it away from us. You know, we can find our derays, we can find our mother's country, but we can probably drive past it. But it's private land by the colonists now. We can't actually access it most of the time. So we can look at it from a distance, but we are kept away from it. And so, you know, for thousands of years, that was our employment. If you want to compare it to contemporary Australia, our employment was our deray, which means having in Wiradjuri. So if my grandmother's grandmother was Yurubin deray, which is the welcome swallow. So our employment for that section of the Galar, you know, river was to make that place right for the welcome swallow, to care for the welcome swallow and to honour it. And now we can't do that because we are kept out of that country, and we can watch it from a distance, but we're no longer part of that. We have no role in that anymore other than externally, and that is our greatest, that's the worst and most painful thing that the colonists have done, is to keep us away from that, our responsibility and our employment. And it to know it and to just stand and watch from a distance is not right. And it really does cause us extraordinary pain. Our hopes with the Toponomy project, of course, is to create an incredible atlas of the Wiradjuri country, the clan groups, the derays, and also sacred areas. The place names reveal so much. Wiradjuri place names are fluid, like the river, and as are all Aboriginal place names. You know, we have over 72 different language names in Wiradjuri for water. So all sorts of different water, whether it's a sandy creek, a flowing creek, a still water, a deep water, you know, whether it's a long water hole in rocks. You know, we explain its purpose, and that's its truth. Its name is its purpose. And so we don't call a river Kevin. What's Kevin's purpose? It has no purpose. So, but a flowing river with a deep water hole, that's its purpose. You know, that's its right name. So we would like to restore our country's right names again and let it hear them, because that will make us heal, but we think it'll make the country heal. I don't know if you want to watch, I run Crackerjack Education, which is an Aboriginal online education company, and we have lots of resources on our site that are about water, of course, because it's such an integral place. So I don't know, did you want to run a video or just go on to something else? She go on to get coffee.
I accidentally muted you. And then I had to sorry, and then I had to unmute myself. Look, I think, you know, if you've got a couple of minutes video, I think that's fine. And so where can I find it? Is it on the Crackerjack Education website?
I can share it if you.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. Yep. If you have a look at the little up the top, there's lots of little image icons.
Yeah.
And then if you hit on the plus button,
oh yeah,
then there should be an option to share your screen. And thank you, Bruce. You'll be next. And I'll turn off my mic, and I won't turn off your mic.
It says It says stop sharing. It doesn't actually say sharing. Okay. It says breakout rooms, but it doesn't actually say anywhere to share there. Ah, a telefib, it does so. Not sure what it's doing actually. This is so different to Zoom. Stop sharing. Okay. Is it doing anything yet?
You can probably share the URL of the website in the chat because yes, it takes time.
Yeah, I think so
prepare,
too.
you know?
I think you're right. I think
It
I'll
takes
just
time. Yeah.
yeah, it's not behaving, which is fine. It's fine. Yeah.
You can copy and paste the URL, yes.
I'll write it in. It's just crackerjackeducation.com.au. But you've I will share probably during my presentation later in the week.
All right.
Some of the animations anyway, so it's all good.
That sounds great, and we can add all of these resources to the participant info list. So I'll add that into the list as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Nola.
No problem.
Yeah, I was really engaged by the whole idea of derays when you first shared that with me. So yeah, thank you very much. And now I think if everyone's happy, I'll hand over to Bruce Shillingsworth, who's been very patiently waiting and listening in on everyone's conversation. So welcome, Bruce, and I will now turn off my mic and we'll hear from Bruce.
Yama everyone. My name's Bruce Shillingsworth. I'm a Murrawarri Budgety man. Come from the northwestern New South Wales. I live in a little town called Brewarrina, where the Darling River starts. I want to show a video of what we done in 2019, and I want to tell the story, how did we get to that. But first of all, I want to acknowledge the land we're all at the moment. I want to acknowledge the 500 plus nations right across this big continent of ours. I want to acknowledge the 250 plus language group that kept this continent the way it was for thousands of years. I want to acknowledge my elders, both past, present, and emerging, for they hold the memories, the tradition, and the oaths for Aboriginal Australia. We must always remember that under this concrete and stone, this is and always will be traditional Aboriginal land. Thank you, my brother Brendan, brother Lee, and my sister Nola. I took down a couple of notes listening to you guys, and we all have a similar story because we are the people of the land. We are the first people of this continent. Can we show that clip now? Save our rivers. Hope it works.
Leave the rivers, my brothers and sisters. Are you listening? Can you hear her crying? We've got to pull together, stop the greed and the lies. If we don't, this country dies. If we don't, we won't survive. No time for crying. We gotta get strong. The river has no voice, and she's losing her song. Country's got a heartbeat,
I think a few people are having trouble with it. Hang on, I'll try it again.
If we don't, we won't survive. Water is life, light of our Mother Earth. Water is life.
Sorry to interrupt. I will share the video another way because the image is the same always. Sorry for that. 1 second, please.
You know, go again when you we want.
Sorry. Sorry. Save the river. Yeah. Save the river song.
Save the rivers, my brothers and sisters. Are you listening? Can you hear her crying? We've got to pull together, stop the greed and the lies. If we don't, got a heartbeat. Can you save the rivers, my brothers and sisters? Are you listening? Can you hear her crying? We've got to pull together, stop the greed and the lies. If we don't, this country dies. If we don't, we won't survive. No time for crying. We've gotta get strong. The river has no voice, and she's losing her song. This country's got a heartbeat. Can you feel it now? Come together and sing it loud. Save the rivers, brothers and sisters. Are you listening? Can you hear her crying? Gotta pull together, stop the greed and the lies. If we don't, this country dies. If we don't, we won't survive. Water is life, light of our Mother Earth. Water is life, it connects us all. We're singing our country, bringing down the rain. The rivers flow,
Yama, thanks everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, look, over the last 10 or 20 years, we see a great change in our rivers and our waterways. Our people have been living on the lands for thousands and thousands of years. They live in great balance of the environment and with the people and with the land. The Murray-Darling run through the 4 states, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia. 40 plus nations, First Nation lives along those waterways. My old people have said to me, what you do upstream will affect the people downstream. So whatever they do up there in Queensland, give you an example with the Adani, with the mining that's going up there, that'll affect our waterways and our people down the south and the bottom end. Once the pollution and the poison gets into our underwater basin, we can say goodbye. My old people have said no one owns the river. It was there to be shared. Water is life. Water gives, water feeds the planet, feeds the plant, feeds everything that's in it. Mother Earth is speaking. Our spirits are speaking from the land. When are they going to hear the voice of Mother Earth and the voice of First Nation people? We have the answer. We have the answer. We are called upon non-Indigenous people to join us, because this is not just about our mob. This is about the human race on this planet. People, we can't go nowhere else. There's no other planet that we can go to. We need to look after the one we got here. Our 500 plus nations across this big continent have lived on this land peacefully. Look what's happened in the last 230 plus years. Australia's got the largest extinct animals in the world. Brother Brendan, talk about sovereignty. Sovereignty is very important. We have a connection to our land, like he explained, to his Tati Tati land and his people down south. Why we speak about sovereignty? Like I said, we have a connection. That's where our DNA comes from, the land. Our DNA comes from our mothers and our fathers, and from Mother Earth, and from our waterways, and from the water and the environment. That's where our identity comes from. That's our connection. Brother Lee talked about our totems. What happens if the water beetle or the water spider disappears? All those animals and living creatures were a part of our totem system that connected us and for our survival right across this continent. Those water beetles and the water spiders were totems of many of the family groups and individuals. People, if our totem die, we die. If we've got a dead river, we've got a dead community. If we've got a sick river, we've got a sick community, and the land becomes sick. So that's what's happened over the last couple of years. In 2019, me and my mother walked down to the riverbed in Burke. Mum's passed away this year, 1 year short of her 101 birthday. Mum lived on those rivers. She walked the country. She lived off the land. She lived off those water creatures, all those medicinal plants that the water survives, that needs water. Mum lived, and her people lived off the land to a very old age. 2019, like I said, we walked the riverbed, the empty riverbed. She have never seen the river in that condition in her lifetime. In 100 years, you've never seen the river in that condition. What have happened to those water creatures, the aquatic life, the ecosystem that my people have relied on for thousands of years? What happened to the long-necked turtles? What happened to the yellow bellies, the cod's, the catfish, the mussels that have survived in our rivers and waterways for thousands of years? They become extinct. When they're dead, we become dead. And we tell non-Indigenous people we want to carry them on a journey with us. It's a journey about all of us. The rainbow serpent connected our song lines across this continent. We call the rainbow snake the Mundagara. Lived in the water holes that created the water, the rivers, the billabongs, and the waterways. That connects us across this big continent, and that's what connects us from the north to the south, to the east, to the west. Our First Nation has a history and has identity and has a story to tell the world. People, this story is not just about us. It's about our future generations. It's about our children and their children's children. It's about your children and your children's children. It's time we need to wake up. Look what the big corporates are doing to our rivers and our waterways. Floodplain harvesting, cotton farming up north. Look at the big dams on the Queensland border. Cubby Station. They're damming our waters. They're holding more water than what they got here in the Sydney Harbour. Who owns that water? My people. My people own that water. It runs through their lands. They were the protectors of the land. They were the protectors of the rivers and the waterways. We've got to go back to learn what our old people have done for thousands of years and start managing our rivers and waterways. We have to be a part of the decision making. We have to be a part of decision making what's happening to our waters, how the waters affected our people. When our rivers have dried up, we were introduced to drinking water that was polluted by the cotton farmers and the irrigators. The pollution and the chemicals that went into those rivers made my people sick. They had kidney disease. They was on dialysis. We need proper water filters for our people to drink those clean water. We have a right to clean water. We have a right to clean water. We have a right to access our rivers and our waterways and our creatures. Our people need tanks to store our waters. My people will not be pushed off their land. My people have been lived there for thousands of years, and that's where their connection. I got a feeling that this government want to move our people off our traditional lands, and then the big corporate company will take control of our waters. That's what we got to stop. The 4 states, we've got problems because we've got 4 states that got the different laws and different rules and regulations. What about First Nations rights? This government needs to acknowledge and recognize that we have a right to our waters and our land. What empowers me is I see your brothers and sisters like you guys are standing up. If we don't stand up, we will lose another generation of people. We don't want to see that. But let's stand together. The Yamagunabaka 2019 corroboree. We visit the 5 towns, Walgett, Brewarrina, Burke, Wilcannia and Menindee. We had a convoy of over 300 people travel with us. We had about 500 people on the riverbanks those nights, each night. We had a corroboree, a gathering of people, non-Indigenous people and First Nation people. I believe, like our brother Brendan said, we need to get back and speak to the spirit of our land. We need to start singing our songs. We need to bring back our laws. Sister Nola, we need to bring back the languages, the proper words for those countries, for the rivers. I believe we need to gather more often. I believe we need a modern day corroboree that's involved all people of all walks of life and all backgrounds. You know, non-Indigenous people are now going to walk with us. They're going to sit on our lands and listen to our stories and acknowledge our laws, not LAW, but LORE. Sit with us on our rivers, and our lakes, and our waterways, and listen to our stories. And I think that's what we've got to keep doing, bringing a gathering. And I believe our old people have said, you've got to sing the land, son, you've got to sing the spirit. And that's what we need to do. And I think for First Nation people, we need to gather our nations together and get back to do what our old people have done for thousands of years. My father is connected to the rainmakers. They are rain dancers. Their songlines run up to the centre of Australia and right up to the Kimberleys, to the Fitzroys. We're going to bring back those old laws and bring back those old traditions. We've got to keep practicing it. We don't want to lose it. Because that is our answers for our land and our people. I don't want to talk too much. I know I can rave on. But if you want something that I can talk about, I can talk about. But look, it's about us now. We've got to challenge the government. We need the proper leaders in the right places. We need to get the proper leaders in the right places. But First Nation people now need to step up. We are responsible. Our elders are now passed on the baton to us. Let's run with it. We've got a platform. We've got the dreaming. Our old people and our ancestors now are guiding us. They are walking with us. So let us be responsible. We become the protectors of Mother Earth. We become the protectors of our rivers and our waterways. Our rivers is an entity. It's an entity. There's a law amongst itself. That's where our law comes from, the law of the land, from the rivers, the creatures, and the environment. So let's empower each other. Let's get to the leaders of this country. Let's get to the leaders of the world and make a difference. We need this change. It's about our survival. It's about the survival of humans on this planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. I mean, I'm quite in awe of what everybody said. And as a person of, you know, my ancestors came to this country in late 1800s, you know, I feel very strongly that, you know, I want to walk side by side, and whatever I can do in my capacity to help raise the voices of what do First Nation people are talking about and the importance of that, you know, not just within our country, but as you say, Bruce, to the world. So I think yeah, maybe we just swap over to the cafe mode. And then any of the participants, if they'd like to ask the panel questions, we'll spend the rest of the session just having conversation. But thank you, all four of you. I feel actually quite emotional, so it's probably better if I don't speak too much. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And please, some of the participants, it'd be great for you to ask them questions.
Hot, no, a little bit of water in it.
So Tracy, we close the webinar and we go to the cafe, right? Okay. So you have on the left side of the screen, you have a brown button with a cup of coffee.
Ah, yeah.
If you click on this cup of coffee, you will switch to the cafe. And then we join there in this place. I will stop this webinar right now.